Welcome to Ladies Talking Leafs. I'm Chris.
And I'm Sil.
And we want to thank everyone who voted for us in the 2025 Sports Podcast Awards. Unfortunately, we weren't one of the winners this year, but we're proud to have been in the running for the two awards, Best Hockey Podcast and Diverse Voices. And we'll be back next year. Yeah. We're going to work hard to get back in there, but it's an honor just to be nominated anyway. So at least we're getting recognized that way as a source for hockey content and Leafs content. So that's really good.
Absolutely. And I think the competition is getting more fierce every season as people get to know more about the Sports Podcast Awards. So, I mean, Travis Kelce, the Kelce brothers, they won in their category for Best Sports Talk. Those are pretty big names to be mentioned alongside, not necessarily in our category, but anyway, so it's like Chris said, it's nice to be recognized in this way and nominated. So
yeah, and congrats to all the winners.
Absolutely.
Of the awards. Yeah. All right, so a big weekend coming up for football fans, and Bet Online has you covered with more updated odds and props for Super Sunday. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. We have hundreds of prop bets, MVP odds, and exclusive in-game live betting. BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion.
Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline offers you everything and more to enhance your game day experience. Visit the website today, betonline.ag, and make the game day action count just a little bit more. BetOnline, the game starts here. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know needs some support or advice, you can reach out to Connex Ontario or an organization near you.
All right, so some big news in the NHL and the NHLPA this week with the announcement that the salary cap is going to be increasing over the next three seasons, assuming nothing crazy happens in the world, of course. And this is the first time they've ever done this, I think, to actually say 3 seasons in a row that the number is going to be going up. So next season, the cap will be at 95.5 million and the lower limit will be at 70.6 million. This season, the cap is at 88 million. So that's quite a substantial increase. And it's going to make things a lot interesting for a lot of teams and their players. I found it interesting, actually, what Darren Ferris, the Mitch Marner's agent, said about it. He said, this is huge and will definitely help the players and their teams. It's like he's being very cordial about it. But it's going to put the Leafs in an and a lot of teams, not just the Leafs, but they're going to put them in an interesting situation as to how they handle that. I still don't think that I think you still have to have that internal cap where the actual best player gets paid the most, in my opinion, which would be Austin Matthews. You cannot go above that. For Mitch Marner, it doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter how much the cap goes up, and that should give the Leafs, and I guess there has been some concern to say that it's going to be kind of like the teams with the money. There's going to be that separation there because of it. They said some people are saying.
So sad, too bad on that.
Yeah, but then
honestly, they've handcuffed those teams for so long.
Yeah,
that's forget it. I'm not. I don't even care about that whining. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but then they did say too that apparently when it comes to the revenue sharing, and that's basically where we come in, and the teams that actually have money are subsidizing these lower echelon teams for God knows how long. There's going to be some adjustment to that, I've heard, sort of thing, because of this, the salary cap going up in advance, and this whole, this whole plan that they have that it will be going up. So the NHL and the NHLPA are gonna work on some adjustments to the revenue sharing plan. But anyways, so we'll hear more about that in the future. But and the current CBA, because it looks like they're being quite friendly to each other. The
right
NHL
now they are
now, and everything with Gary Bettman and Marty Walsh is the head of the NHLPA, representing the players, and Bill Daly. They all seem to be in a little bit of a love fest there. And but the current CBA expires September 2026. But from the sounds of it, they might get something else done before that. So we'll see.
Well, it would be nice if we can have some kind of labor peace, because that hasn't really happened too often in this league.
That's for sure. Yeah.
If they can, stay amicable and work together.
Yeah.
I think that it would be a mistake if they decided to, have a stoppage again, because like you said, they've basically just built all this momentum, and now you are projecting, the salary cap to go up over $100 million in not that far down the road. So to jeopardize that makes zero sense. So
yeah. Just keep on working to get a deal done, and and sooner is better, definitely. Yeah.
All right, so now we're going to get into the show, and we're going to start off with the good, the bad, and the ugly. And then for our third period segment, we're going to welcome to the show Jeremy Ridgewell from Editor in Leaf. So without any further ado, let's talk Leafs.
All right, so the good, the bad, and the ugly. So let's start off with the good here. There has been some good. It's kind of been, I guess it's February now. It's a new month, so yay. We can put January behind us. And I'm saying for my good is this Four Nations break coming up. I just think it's a good thing for the Leafs, and I'm sure other teams as well, but we concentrate on the Leafs, obviously. And just because of all these injuries that we've had and the grind of the schedule, I don't know how many back-to-back games we've played, but it seems like we've played like 9 or 10 of them already.
Yeah, more than our fair share.
Yeah, and we still have a few to go. And so just the grind of the schedule. And I think for players like Riley and Domi, it's, at least I'm hoping, and Leaf fans are hoping too, I'm sure, that it's like they'll come back refreshed, go to a beach somewhere or spend some time, and then maybe come back a few days early and get back on the ice and get refreshed and rejuvenated, and hopefully come back better, basically, for the last 25 or so games of the season, because we need those players to be better. So that's what I think. I'm looking forward to it for them, and I wish Austin Matthews was also going to be on taking a break, and even William Nylander. I mean, Willie is like, I don't even want to think about it. Like, he's kind of like, we're focused on Austin Matthews because he's had that injury, right? But I mean, we have two other star players, Mitch Marner and William Nylander, going there. Yeah. And God forbid if something were to happen to one of those players as well.
Absolutely. And right? I also think too that, for teams that are, kind of in the like older age bracket, like we are now.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of guys on our team that can use that break. Another guy that I kind of think about, and I don't know if he's going to now be named to the roster because Pietrangelo is not going to be going, is maybe Tanev,
right.
He's a guy that has logged a lot of miles, and his game is not easy on the body. So
yeah,
I kind of, as good as nice as it would be for him to be named to the team, I'm kind of hoping not, because I'd like for him to, have a break to heal up those war wounds.
Yeah, he definitely has a lot of bruises from the from blocking all the shots, and and I think him and I know McCabe played like over 30 minutes last night versus the Oilers, which was just insane.
He played incredible though.
Yeah, I love the hit.
Talking about the salary cap, that contract is looking really, really good right now.
Yeah, and that hit he made on McDavid to stop him, as like McDavid thought he was just going to fly by him, but he just caught him just enough, and it was just like, I that guy, I wish that they could just keep that pairing like that, and like with Tanev and McCabe, and figure something out with Morgan Rielly. Hopefully this break, like I'm saying, this break is going to be good for Morgan Rielly, and and he'll come back better, and just heading towards that stretch drive. So we'll see what happens. What's your good?
So my good is Joseph Woll, and it's mainly because, well, you know what? We didn't have the greatest stretch in the last little bit. It's kind of this last 5-game set. It was bookended by 2 good wins, mind you, but the games in between there, I mean, he wasn't responsible for all of them, but given that, I mean, last night his save percentage was .938 against that team, which is a powerhouse. It's incredible. He was like pelted, and he was just amazing, but we'll get into that a little bit more later. But for the rest, like basically even though we lost all these games, he still has an over 9 save percentage in every one of those games. Yeah. So he kept us in enough to win those games.
Yeah. But he just didn't get any offense to support him.
Yeah. So, I think he's been playing amazing. And I loved what he said last night too, about how much he's enjoying it. So
I thought I had a good laugh at that, right? It's just like, he was like a kid and out on the ice rink kind of thing, just having fun. That's the way he sounded when he said that. They're just like, he's having a lot of fun out there. And I'm like, oh my God, you're having a lot of fun out there, just like sprawling. It was like Kelly Rudy was saying, it's like he's a goalie. He loved it, and I loved it too. He's like a goalie in the 80s where like it wasn't so systematic.
A compliment. He had to say that, because 80s goalies get a bad rap sometimes because they, let in quite as many as they save sometimes. But sometimes it's not about how many you let in. It's about the ones that you keep out and how timely those are. And his saves were really timely, and he was incredible last night versus the Oilers for sure.
Because unfortunately, the Leafs only played 1 period in front of him. And then after that, and it was basically McCabe and Tanev basically covering up for everything. And then we got down to 5D too. So that made it even worse. But Joseph Woll, I mean, he's made, I didn't realize this, he's actually made 11 starts in net since January 1st. And that's
quite a lot.
Yeah, that's basically only Vasilevsky and Hellebuck have had more starts.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's pretty good. And
he's still looking good and looking spry. So I'm...
And Anthony Solars is going to be coming back, so that's good.
It's going to be good. He's going to get a little bit of a reprieve, but they're going to they're going to be back to their hopefully rock solid tandem that they were at the start of the season. So anyway, yes, Joseph Woll, my good this time around.
All right, so moving on to the bad. Bad is our home record, I guess. Going back 12 games, I guess this is going back to the game versus the Islanders on December 21st. Their record at home is 5-7-0. And so, because during the beginning of the season, it was actually pretty good. But I don't know, this month, end of December into January, it hasn't been good. They only had 31 goals for, 44 goals against, and the PK was at 55% at home. So that's not good. And the total goals from the bottom 6 forwards is 2 in those 12 games.
Ouch.
So bad. I think we need more than 2 goals from 6 players. You cannot have that and expect to be doing well into the playoffs or going on a long run in the playoffs. You got to get going. They got to get Domi going somehow. And I mean, just the comments about, obviously we talked about in the last show with Austin Matthews and the home crowd and all that. That's fine. I mean, it's good that he called them out now, or called us out, I guess. But you need to have a better record than that too. Like, in order to get the fans behind you, you need to have a better record, at least 500 anyways. And anyhow, they'll be back on February 22nd versus the Carolina Hurricanes. That's how long it is. It's a long time.
Chance for redemption.
Yeah, and so the fans, I think, will be welcoming of them after being away for so long. I'm sure we'll be waiting. Well, we will anyway. Sil and I will be definitely cheering. We're always cheering up in our top section of section 319. But yeah, so anyhow, that's my bad. What's your bad?
Well, mine leads, your bad leads very nicely into my bad, which is lack of scoring in general. I mean, the games we lost this week, we only scored 1 goal in any of them. So we lost 5-1 versus Columbus, 2-1 versus Ottawa, 3-1 versus Minnesota. Like, we just can't get the puck in the net. And there were some, really some good highlight moments, and the goals that were scored were pretty beautiful in those games, but you can't win just with like 1 goal.
No.
That's just not going to cut it in the NHL. And, it's that bottom 6. We're going to talk about that again in a little bit, but it's
why
it's just not good enough.
Yeah, I can't. That's why you can't blame Woll or the goaltending for it. No. When you, I mean, yeah, you let in 5 goals, but when you don't, the team wasn't going versus Columbus at all anyways. No. But that's the thing. Like, you need I know it's a dog days. We've titled one of our shows on that, right? The dog days of January or whatever, the NHL season. But you got to get through it, and you got to, that's what they get paid for. And for lack of scoring, I mean, this just sums it up. Domi, he's played 43 games. He has 3 goals. David Kampf, 38 games, 3 goals. Pontus Holmberg, 39 games. He has 2 goals. And then we got the zeros from Connor Dewar and Ryan Reeves. Ryan Reeves has actually played 32 games. I didn't realize that he's got into that many games, but he has 0. They both have 0 goals. And
I think so many of those guys that you mentioned, aside from Domi, are pretty interchangeable.
Yes.
Do you really need that many of them?
No, I know. And that David Kampf, that contract is screwing us over.
Yeah, he doesn't make that much, but the thing is, probably makes more than we need him to. But beyond
than what he's giving us, basically.
Well, I think. But the thing is, he was never supposed to give us more than this. My point is we have too many of these guys. Like, I know the defense is important and team defense is important, but you need more.
Yeah.
You can't have this many of them is the point.
I mean,
you've got Lawrence is probably the only one in that bottom 6 that is really, producing at all.
Yeah. And that you could say too, that he's there I shouldn't say, actually, David Kampf, I mean, he's a center. So we need centermen. We definitely when it comes and the penalty kill, he's giving in other areas. It would just be nice to see him produce just a little bit more on that, even just a little. But
I don't know. Like, the other things that he brings is better than other guys.
Holmberg
that play that role.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah. But
and to me, Reeves, I don't like. He should not get into any playoff games.
Yeah. We talked about that. Yeah.
I just think that there's too many of these types of role players, and they need to. But the thing is too, is these are the guys that potentially you would want to move, but what are you going to get?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just moving them off the roster so you can maybe make room. I don't know. It's we just have too many of these same type of role players, and they're just not giving us enough.
Yeah, they don't score. Right. Good.
And another guy that I would like to see more out of at this point now is Pacioretty.
Right.
Yes, he has scored, but not recently. He's been in and out of the lineup. He's did most of his scoring at the beginning of the season, and so he's kind of tapered off. And I know he's kind of been in and out and everything, but he's a guy that, you took a flyer on, yes, but you took a flyer on him so that he would contribute more offensively as well, I think. Yeah. Because that's what he was known for.
That's the thing.
I know he wants him to play this defensive role and hit people and stuff like that. But
that's what I was going to say with what the message that Berube is giving him, though. It's just I don't know if that's the right message. I think you gotta, because he's a goal scorer too, right? Like that's what he was as when he was with the Canadians.
For sure. Like he wasn't
Vegas.
this bruiser guy.
No. So
he was a skilled forward.
So why try and be something that, I mean, you can have it in your game because obviously you can do it because he's doing it, but don't make it all about it like that. Don't make your game all about that. Like you got to get, got to give us some offense. So
he's definitely a guy we need more from. And I'm going to mention him again, Nick Robertson. Yeah. We need consistent scoring from that guy. Bobby McMahon is doing it. Yeah. You know, he doesn't go more than, one game or so without putting something in the net or contributing offensively.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know. He had, mind you, I felt bad for Robbie yesterday. He blocked that shot, man. I didn't know if he came back to the bench. I don't know if he got a shift after that, but I'm hoping he's okay. But he took one for the team there. It was nice to see, even though he shouldn't be doing that. But we need him to
has
score.
Has he improved the defensive side of his game? Yes, he has. Yeah. But we do need more of an offensive contribution. So,
I don't know. We'll see. Maybe this break. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see with this trade deadlines coming up soon. So it'll be interesting to see what. There's already been a lot of moves and see what happens there.
And I'm curious too, like with Four Nations happening, there's no trade freeze during that.
No, I know. Yeah.
So, stuff could happen.
Yeah.
While people, I would like to think that teams are like, okay, well, I'm not going to, pull somebody off of their Barbados vacation, or ruin it for them. But there's nothing in the rules that say they can't do that. Yeah. And I'm just wondering, if in the next couple weeks, like or week and a half, if more stuff's going to go down. I mean, it's just like a little bit every day happening, right? So, kind of interesting. But one thing I will say though is that we need to have our lineup together consistently for a time. And these injuries to key players have really put a wrench in that. And we saw on Saturday, at least for one good period, versus the Oilers, what that looks like.
Yes. Yeah.
Unfortunately,
they didn't keep it going quite for the 60 minutes, but but if they could just do that, and thankful. Oh, we should give a kudos to our video team though, catching that offside, right? We have one of the best video teams in the league, but
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we all know that January wasn't a great month for the Leafs, but thankfully we are now into February. But to talk about where the Leafs are as we head into February, we welcome Jeremy Ridgewell from Editor and Leaf as our guest for the third period.
So for our third period segment, we're happy to have on the show writer for Editor and Leaf website, Jeremy Ridgewell.
Jeremy covers the Leafs and Marlies, and he is also host of Leaf watch parties at Bottom Line Toronto, a local sports bar in downtown Toronto. And we'll give you more information on that in a bit as well. But for now, thanks for coming on the show with us, Jeremy. We really appreciate you coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right. So let's just get into it. I guess first question we have is what do you think has happened to the Leafs offense? I guess in January, the Leafs, they've had 2 3-game losing streaks. And in 5 of those 6 games, they had a total of 4 goals, which is not good, obviously. So, we just wanted to get your opinion on that. Like, is it something with the style of play, you think, from Craig Berube, or
I think a little bit. I think the fact that the lines haven't really been the same consistently mostly due to injury. But guys aren't playing together frequently enough to get that chemistry.
Right.
Last night, I think one of the big things that we saw was, especially with the power play, is guys going to the net. 2 of their goals were from guys right there in the blue paint. That's where someone needs to be. So it was good to see a couple of them doing that last night.
Yeah. And they were really, last night being versus the Oilers, because we're recording this on Sunday. So, that was finally, at least they got some goals last night. But, the only other thing too, I guess, is from the back end, we basically don't get anything from the defense, right? And I guess that's the other issue, or one of the issues besides the forwards. But yeah.
Okay, well, let's switch gears a little bit. So we now know that Austin Matthews has committed to playing in the Four Nations face-off, and indeed he was named captain of Team USA. I think I know where you're going to go with this, because I believe you wrote a bit of an article on this already. But what are your thoughts given his injury and season to date? And what are your expectations for him going forward for the rest of the season once the break is over?
I find it hard for teams to say no to having players do things like this, but at the same time, due to the nature of who he is and what he means to the Leafs, if he's to get injured during this tournament, that realistically isn't, it's not the Olympics. So to lose a player potentially to an event that he shouldn't have to play could be drastic for the Leafs. At the same time, if it helps get his mojo going, that's another factor that you have to look into. He's still playing at point per game, above point per game right now. If he stays healthy, you're still looking at a guy who's having a down year, but 35 plus goals. So I don't know. It's a tricky situation, but if it was me, I probably would have kept him back instead of going, but I'm not management, so
yeah, we don't have a vote.
No.
So what do you think? So what are your expectations then when he comes back? I personally am like, I don't want to hear any of this. I wasn't 100% or whatever. That's kind of how I feel.
If you choose to go and it affects how you play for the team that's paying you the big bucks, there can't be any excuses. If you know that you should have used that time to rest and chose not to, that's completely on you.
Yeah, for sure.
So are you excited for this tournament at all, or what do you just overall do you think it's going to be like an all-star game kind of thing?
I think it's going to be like an all-star game.
You do?
There's going to be a bunch of fans that do enjoy it, but it's not something I look forward to.
Yeah.
Are you going to watch?
Yeah, I'll probably watch, but I don't know if I'll watch every game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's going to be a lot of almost 2 weeks basically of no regular NHL games in the middle of February, and it's like, oh God, what are we going to do, right?
The players that aren't going because they're just stranded for 2 weeks doing nothing and won't practice.
Well, I guess in that sense, it's a little better than the All-Star break because they can take their vacation, down south or whatever, but then they still have time to come back and be skating and practicing and stuff like that, on their own or whatever. So anyway.
All right. So with moving on now, I guess just with the recent trades that have been happening, it almost feels like the trade deadline is already here or coming here with the teams making deals. I guess, but it's just over a month away, the actual deadline on March the 7th. And you wrote an article recently about the Leafs looking most likely for a centerman, which is what I think they desperately, and a lot of fans think they desperately need. Is that what you'd like to see the Leafs add as centerman at the deadline? Obviously there's a lot of even a D-man, but where do you see the biggest need for the Leafs coming this deadline?
Well, it sounds like they're targeting a center, but I think overall they really just need to figure out something to do with the bottom six, because as far as the secondary scoring is going, it's not there. So whether it's the centerman that makes the difference, or you get a winger who's going to give you 15 to 20 on average per season, if that's the type of guy they can get, just because they need a center doesn't mean there's always one available.
Yeah.
But I think that's what they're looking at. And I think they need to try and get at least another top four defenseman, preferably one that can shoot the puck to the net.
It's just so funny, just listening to you right now and what you're saying. It's I feel like we could have, recorded this interview, last year or the year before that, or the year before that. It seems like they cannot get the bottom six the way they need and get that real good puck mover from the back end.
Or somebody with a shot. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I know when they brought in Oliver Ekman-Larsson,
Mhm.
people were saying, "Oh, he's really good at getting the puck through the crowd and on the net," and I'm not seeing it. Same with Tanev. Same thing. They said he could get the puck to the net. He's done it a couple times, but it's not a consistent thing. So they need at least someone that can play on one of those top two pairs that can get the puck to the net. Not necessarily score, but at least get the puck to the net.
Yeah.
Mhm.
One guy you mentioned in the article, which I'd never heard actually his name come up at all, but lately he's been in there, is Ryan Donato. I guess you had mentioned as a centerman possibility. And I guess earlier today I was reading something in the Chicago Sun-Times. I guess they wrote that Ottawa might be the leader for like in the hunt for getting him. So because Ottawa's right behind us now. So but he's apparently a very good Donato is a very good, I guess, fit. But the only problem I find with these trade options is that, from what Brad Treliving said, like he wants somebody that has a little bit of term, and all these depth centermen that are good to play in the bottom six, they are all like UFAs at the end of this year. So I don't know, something's going to have to give there.
I think the problem with the Leafs is not having that first round pick.
Mhm.
Yeah, for this
especially
year,
for a player with term. If you want term, you're going to have to pay more, and the Leafs currently just don't have it.
Yeah. Anyways, it's always an issue. Well, let's talk a little bit about the Marlies, because, truly, if we could develop people and they could come up and stick, then that would really help us. So as we record this podcast, Alex Steeves leads the American Hockey League with 24 goals. So like we said, we know the Leafs are having problems scoring. So why do you think that Steeves is not getting at least an opportunity with the Leafs, or when he does, he just doesn't seem to stick?
I think whenever the Leafs bring him up, they're not giving him the same type of playing style that he's using down in the Marlies. Down in the Marlies, not to say he's the guy, but he's one of their guys. But when he comes up to the Leafs, we need you to fill in on the third line and play 10 minutes a game. I think if they bring him up, they need to give him the minutes. Because he's proving with the Marlies this year and through the whole AHL that he can play. I think he's on pace for like 75, 76 points right now, which, AHL, that's still pretty good. But yeah,
and
anytime I've seen him with the Leafs, he's not getting adequate playing time at all.
So why do you think he hasn't, they've brought other guys up and given them, some time on, in the top, on the top two lines? Like, why do you think that they just haven't given him that opportunity, like they did with McMahon, for example? I
don't know. I don't know if it's a trust issue, if Berube doesn't trust Steve's
and I mean,
style.
Keefe didn't either.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So, I don't know.
Yeah. And the other player, I guess, that we've been wondering about, and we talked to before this season, is Topi Niemela on defense. I mean, for years, it seems now, I think he's only 22 or 21, but for a few years now, anyways, they're saying like he's a top defensive prospect and he's a right shot D. So why he hasn't even got one opportunity to come up and play? And apparently after last season with the Marlies, he played really well, and he should have got they should have him as an option on the D anyways. But have you heard anything about him, about Topi Niemela at all, or?
I haven't heard anything. I have seen him play a couple times this year. He's still like last year. He looks really good.
Right.
I don't know why he's not getting the call, or why other guys are getting the call above him.
Yeah, that's true too. Because
I know
Philip Myers.
I know some D, they take longer than others to be NHL ready, but I don't know. They seem like they have a backlog back there, and he just keeps falling behind every time they call somebody up ahead of him.
Yeah, no, I don't get that, but it's very odd, because it's just even Craig Button on TSN, he was very high on him a couple of years ago, and then he just doesn't get the opportunity. So And I guess we'll have to wait and see on that. Well,
like you said, last year he played really well, and I actually had him penciled in as hopefully getting a spot out of camp this year, but it never happened.
Yeah. I don't know.
A few people have said that. Like we had Nick Barden on as well, and he thought for sure he was going to get a shot as well. So I think he did stay up a little longer this year at the beginning of in preseason than he did before, but not really for an extended look. So I don't know. Do you think it's a size thing? Like Berube seems to like the bigger defenseman.
He does, but I think at the same time he has shown that he's willing to play guys if they produce. It's just I don't know what they're looking for with him, but for whatever reason he just didn't get the call and continues not to get the call. But from what I've seen, he looks like he's good to go.
Like NHL ready, yeah. Yeah, that's what Nick said as well before the season started. So anyhow, let's second vote for Topi Niemelä to hopefully see him in a Leaf uniform
sooner than later.
Yeah. All right. So before we go, we want you to tell us a bit about the Leaf watch parties that you're doing at the Bottom Line Sports Bar. What's this all about that fans can check out?
I reached out to Bottom Line before the pandemic. We were going to start some watch parties and just giveaways and that sort of thing. And then COVID happened, so everything kind of got halted. Right around the time where we started letting people go back to restaurants, we had our first one. There was a few people, slowly grown over the years. Last year was our biggest year. We had some watch parties with 35, 40 people. The average is usually around 10. That's the average, 10 people. But yeah, Bottom Line's been great. They have all kinds of freebies that we give away, and there's chances to meet Leaf players who sometimes just happen to stop by before they go to the game. They come by after the game. It is known as the restaurant of the Hockey Hall of Fame because of where it's situated, just beside it. So usually after the Hall of Fame induction ceremony, that's where the after party is held at Bottom Line. So there's lots of autographed material that you can see on the walls. And just even if you're not coming to the watch party, you never know who you're going to bump into when you get there.
I've heard of that. Yeah, I've heard of that. And when's the next watch party? When are you having it?
The next one is February 22nd.
Okay, so the game right after the
versus Carolina.
Yeah,
we usually like to try and pick a home game, and that's the only home game in the month of February. So we usually try to stick to Saturday for anyone coming out of town. Easier to do than on a work night.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. And then you got a couple in March too, right?
Yeah, we've got one on March 8th, and then we've got a special one on March 20th, which is hosted by Molson. Shane Corson will be there. Former Maple Leaf player. We had Darcy Tucker last year. It should be a good time.
Okay.
And they do have a really good menu. We were there not too long ago, before the Boston game in January. And, so definitely people get out and, go watch your Leafs. You can watch as a group, and it's really fun to do that. We've done that
definitely
many times. So, and of course, we will try to get out to one of those as well.
Yeah.
All right. So thanks again, Jeremy, for coming on with us. We really appreciate you and your insights. And we will try to get you on again sometime down the road. And anyway, folks, you can find Jeremy's articles at editorinleaf.com, and you can join him at one of the upcoming Leaf watch parties at Bottom Line. Also, you can follow Jeremy on X. His handle is at 84LeafsFan. So thanks again, Jeremy.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Take care.
All right, so thanks to Jeremy for coming on the show, and it was great to get his insights on the Leafs and the Marlies too. Mentioning about Alex Steeves and why he doesn't get a shot, and I actually agree with him to say, when he does get the shot, even with Sheldon Keefe, like you said, right? Like he plays in the bottom, like on the fourth line, basically. So that's not, because originally he mentioned I guess he's not playing the same as what they play with the Marlies, but your AHL team the system is supposed to match what's playing in the NHL team.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I was thinking as well.
But it's not about that. It's the fact that he's playing top minutes for the
they're
Marlies.
not using him the same way,
right,
as they do down there.
Yeah, so I found that interesting because I mean he's top goal scorer in the AHL, and that's what we've been talking about earlier in our good, bad, and ugly segment. So I found
that's
that interesting.
What we need.
Yeah, and then just it's a great thing that he's doing with those watch parties at Bottom Line, which is right down from Scotiabank Arena. Yeah,
it's kind of like a little bit of a lost art almost. Like since COVID, we just don't, those sorts of things haven't come back in full force. But that bar, Bottom Line it's very close. It's close to the rink, just on Front Street there near the Hockey Hall of Fame. And, it's a really fun time to enjoy the game with, friends and other fans. So
the, I guess too, like it's winter, right? So whatever, people don't want to get out of their houses, and stuff like that. But I mean, if you're going to meet a player like Jeremy was mentioning, they're going to have Shane Corson there, and there's always players going through there, like he was saying. So that it's a great spot. And then especially it's even more fun during the playoffs. I'm sure he'll have
for sure.
Some of
and I
too.
think that I do recall that there's people that go to watch the game at Maple Leaf Square, and they go and hang out there beforehand and sort of kind of get their juices flowing, get themselves all excited. And then they go out there and they cheer on the outside, in the square. So I think it's a good place to get all pumped up and ready for the game.
Yeah, and we're hoping to get out to that one on March 20th anyways.
Absolutely.
To get out there and support the Leafs at Bottom Line. All right, but for now, the Leafs are on a road trip.
Considering their home record, is probably a good thing. And I think even Berube said that he's glad they're going out on the road. So,
all right, so there's only a couple of games this week. The Leafs are out on the road, and then the NHL is off for a couple of weeks because of the Four Nations face-off.
On Thursday night, though, the Leafs go to Seattle to face the Kraken, and then they end the 4-game road trip in Vancouver on Saturday night. So a little bit more action coming up this week. Yeah,
so the Kraken actually, they've been doing not bad. They're 500 basically the last 10 games, 5-5-0, and they I guess they're not going to make the playoffs right now. The way it looks like they're 8 points out of the last wild card spot,
and we're not going to see Yanni Gord, you future Leaf, either. So
they've put into that with his sports hernia surgery.
And I mean it's the same thing that Yarncroke has, and we haven't seen him all season. So.
Yeah, and I thought that was interesting though, because it's like they say that he's going to be like Yanni Gord. They were saying like it's like 6 to 8 weeks, and I'm like, well, for Yarncroke, it's like 6 to 8 months. I think myself, right? Like, how is that?
He had some kind of complication though, I remember, and he had to go see some specialist in New York. So I think it probably has more to do like with where the hernia is located, and if there's any other issues that happened as a result of the surgery, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
So hopefully Yarncroke will be back in time for the playoffs, because he's a guy that, he's like a 20 goal guy, and we're missing those 20 goals.
Yes. Yeah.
He's a good utility guy, who does a lot of different things. And I never thought that I would be saying we really miss him, but we really do.
Yeah. Because he's a big guy too. And, he's kind of like similar to way, Kerfoot wasn't a big guy, but still he was that Swiss Army knife where you could put him anywhere, basically. Right?
And they're really good defensive players, but they can also chip in when needed.
Yes.
Which we do not have anybody like that right now. We were just talking about all these guys that are defense only. Yeah. We need somebody that's going to chip on some offense and still be defensively sound. So it's too bad, because I think that Berube would have ended up really liking his game. But anyway.
And so hopefully we'll see him towards the end of the season anyways. And Callie Yarncroke. And then the game on Saturday night versus the Canucks. I'm sure Leafs Nation will be there and supporting our blue and white. And
they might even be in Seattle too. It's not that far.
Yeah. No, that's definitely a road trip we want to take. It's
for sure.
It's not, like you said, it's not that far. And so the Canucks are right now in a fight with the Calgary Flames for that final wildcard spot. And they're only 1 point, I guess, out right now of the playoffs on as we record on the Sunday. But yeah, that's interesting. They finally got rid of JT Miller and did the trade there, and now Pettersson is. We'll see what. I guess they're going to see what he's got.
There's a guy that has no excuses now.
Yeah. I still wonder.
None.
I was trying to search what exactly is the story behind that. I couldn't find anything as to what.
I just think that they are different types of people, and I think one of them is it can be hard on people when they're trying to get them to be better, and the other one is doesn't take that well.
It shouldn't come to that though. Like I don't know. I guess whatever.
I don't know.
Anyways, that's not our problem.
We're never going to know.
Yeah.
So best for us to move on just like they need to.
Yeah. All right. So we'll be back next week covering those couple of games that the Leafs are playing before they head into that Four Nations break. And we'll have a new episode of Leafs Quick Hits. And who knows, maybe Brad Treliving will surprise us because there has been so many deals with like Calgary and Philadelphia made a deal. Dallas and
that was a really interesting one, actually.
Yeah, Dallas and San Jose made a deal, right? So I don't know. Maybe Treliving has something up his sleeve. We'll see. But in the meantime, don't forget to hit that follow button wherever you are listening to our show. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. And you can also find us on the Believe Network at Believe.com. It's BLEAV. And we'd love to hear from you as well. Be sure to leave us a rating or a review on Apple or Spotify. It's really easy. You just have to, when you're listening to the show, just scroll up. And right at the very bottom you can hit the 5-star button, right? And feedback from our listeners is so important, and we thank you for taking the time.
And another way to help us out is by visiting our Ko-fi page at Ko-fi.com. You can follow us there, and if you choose to, you can support us by buying us a coffee. Any donation goes towards helping us produce the show and making it even better for you. You can find the link to our Ko-fi page on our show notes or in any of our social media profile pages.
And as always, thank you to our healthcare workers and first responders for everything that they do.
And we thank you, as always, for listening and watching Ladies Talking Leafs, presented by Bet Online. Till next time, go Leafs, go.
Do you believe?